What Remains of Edith Finch can easily be mistaken as a slow and tedious adventure. I was that stupid idiot who made that mistake. The gameplay tutorial is short and basically non-existent. That's because all you can do is move and click, prompting dialogue from Edith, the character you play as.
Marked urgent. Open immediately.
And commentary, something the game is definitely not short of. I'd heard about this game many times before, and I knew it was one of those like indie classics which everyone should play. And I mean, I'm sure it's got some deep story or something, but I'm just playing this to get my platinum trophy for real. Like, it really looks boring as fuck. My exact ignorant thoughts while I was doing the intro sequence. But who would have known that What Remains of Edith Finch is genuinely one of the most beautiful and intricate stories I've experienced in a very long time. The game follows Edith Finch, which as the title suggests is the last remaining member of her family, the Finches, as she goes back to her family home and uncovers the stories and lives of all her dead family members. You go room by room, slowly working your way up the skyscraper of a home. Each family member's story is uncovered and told, or much rather their death, and you relive them in these very artistic and sometimes disturbing sequences and mini-games of sorts, playing out their demise.
Time's over, Gregory. It's time to... Hold on, sweetie. Hello? Sam, I told you I don't...
And I'm not gonna hold you, when I reach the credits, I may or may not have teared up a little.
Hell no, man.
You watch as this family's history gets played out right in front of you, as you slowly go up the family tree, filling in the blanks. The game has this very peaceful and calm nature about it, slowly walking from room to room in the house, as you see the detailed environments and remains of a once thriving family. All I could think about was how beautiful yet heartbreaking each of these stories were. You can't help but play the game and feel bad for the family and their trauma.
Do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone?
They've been through so much, and it makes you wonder why we need to be told all this. You simply just want the death to stop. A reaction to the game's themes anyone would have. Yet through the cracks, something much deeper lies, and the true marvel of the game's storytelling comes through. Because past the family stories lies a true evil. And not the supposed family curse which is believed to have been the reason for all their misfortunes.
For 500 years, the Finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune and misfortune.
But rather an evil from within the family itself. Something I, and I'm sure others, had only realized at the end of the game. Where upon realizing this, took my outlook on the game as beautiful and sad to rather eerie and unsettling in some ways. The game, even though still beautiful, now a little bit disturbing.
To end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories!
The game deals with death in a very real way. You have to confront it head on while playing the game. There's no escaping it. But more so, as you're trying to find out what happened to each family member, at the same time, the player is also trying to solve the case as to why they keep dying. Because I mean, surely there's no such thing as a family curse. And you get the sense that there's something else going on here, because some things do seem a little strange. Things like, all the doors to each child's rooms are barricaded, the same rooms you figure out how to get inside during the game, yet there are peepholes to see into them. And how Edith is constantly saying how her mom banned her children from certain places in the house, like the basement for example. Or even how you might notice that isn't it a little weird that there are some shrines and like things related to some of the children's deaths? I mean, even if they were just completely tragic, they're almost like keeping the remnants of their deaths. Like, it is a little bit weird, like what the fuck? But it's clear that there may be something this family is trying to hide. And a lot of the mystery in the game and the family itself comes down to two characters. This is because out of all the family members you come across in the game, Edith's mom, Dawn, and Edith's grandmother, Edie, are only spoken about through dialogue. But their characters and motivations for things, which are constantly mentioned throughout the game, are never actually revealed. You constantly just witness their impact on the family through gameplay.
After Milton disappeared, Mom sealed up all the bedrooms. Then Edie retaliated and drilled peepholes. I got the sense Edie had spent a lot of time here.
Both Edith's mom and Edith's grandmother are talked about and established very early into the game, or rather their differences to one another, as Edith constantly mentions their countless arguments and disagreements over something that we're not entirely sure of. The mom is mostly established as this paranoid, control freak, like, bitch, really. She's portrayed as this mean, unfair parent who over-exaggerates over everything, or at least so it seems. Now, contrary to this, Edie, Edith's grandmother, she's spoken about as this like cool, lenient grandmother who essentially just let her children do whatever they wanted and basically allowed them to just like have some fun every now and then, you know what I mean? You play through the game and each story that you encounter becomes more and more heartbreaking. Like, let me tell you, bruh, this fucking game is like really fucking sad. Like, but it's what happens at the end of the game which really flips the perspective, and the game essentially reveals its villain. Something you wouldn't expect this game to have, but I truly believe it does. Edith Finch is the villain of the story, and the true reason for her family's deaths. I know. It's no secret that some of the stories about these deaths are extremely outrageous, and that's because they are. They all seem to be, in one way or another, over-exaggerated, and in some ways glorified.
The day he made up his mind to fly. And he did.
And it all starts with Molly's death, the first child of Edie's to die. She essentially dies because she ate poisonous berries from decorations in her room. Not only were there poisonous fucking berries lying around, like what the hell, she was neglected in her room and forced to stay there. Molly's death, no doubt, had a huge effect on Edie. The supposed family curse had been a thing since Edie's dad came to America. Their house was essentially destroyed and sunk in the ocean. Instead of understanding what Edie did to her daughter, she uses this family curse as a scapegoat to deal with her trauma, and blames it on that, a pattern we see for the rest of the family. A lot of the family's deaths can be attributed to irresponsible behavior from the parents, just like Molly's death. Like, some shit is just straight ridiculous. Leaving a baby in the bath? Seriously? Or basically putting a swing on a fucking cliff? Like, bro, putting a swing, like that shit is a cliff. The fence is even spiked. Like, isn't it weird how Calvin's brother wrote about his death, saying how he always wanted to fly? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, by flying he means he fell off the swing, off this fucking cliff. Yeah, he did. Damn straight he fucking flew. He flew over that shit. Or how Barbara was murdered, yet all her clothes and things from the day of her death are displayed in her room, even with her own comic book detailing the events. Like, isn't that a little bit weird? These are the stories which are mentioned throughout the game. The exaggerated and kind of disturbing accounts of each family member's death, all curated by Edie herself. Instead of explaining their deaths how they actually were, like falling off a slide, which happened to be shaped like a dragon, instead it's no, a dragon killed my husband, as stated by Edie.
When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed.
Like, Edie's nickname should be euphemism, because like, yeah, what the fuck? So at the end of the game, you finally understand why Edith's mom was being the way she is. She wasn't being mean or anything, but rather she was just trying to protect her children from these stories. Because, you know, I mean, it fucks with them. Like, really imagine being in a house where your family members' deaths are literally shoved down your throat and constantly normalized. She barricaded those doors not to keep something in, but rather to keep her kids out. We also see that same irresponsibility from Edie even at the end of the game. She drinks wine with her medication even though she knows she's not supposed to.
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
Classic Edie. This ends up killing her that night. Ignorance finally catching up to her. Now, there's so many family members to cover in detail, and some of them and their sequences like really blew me away. Like, some of them are actually very good. They're absolutely beautiful, and I definitely think you should play it for yourself. But some of these deaths in the family I think truly highlight Edie's evil in specific. Walter, after witnessing his sister's murder, goes into hiding under the house and lives there for most of his life.
I settled into a routine. That's what kept me sane.
Edie knows about her son hiding under her house, yet didn't attempt to help him in any way. But worst of all, was Edie's story. She gives an interview about how there's a mole man living under her house. She basically makes fun of him. She would rather do that and add to the flame about this family curse than actually helping her own son. These stories, those are more important to her than anything else. And that's probably the same reason why the family has never moved out. The rooms are built on top of each other for each generation. Edie most likely idolized all the work she had put into these stories. I mean, the shrines, the decorations, the artifacts. The reason why so many of them died, and I mean, yeah, this definitely is some like real unfortunate coincidence. But I mean, because the idea that a curse was real, it normalized death and misfortune in the family, and it resulted in subconscious and I mean even conscious, stupid decisions at times and irresponsible things done. The worst that these glorifications and stories can do to someone's mental health is completely evident in Lewis. He was old enough to where for a long period of time the rooms weren't shut closed, meaning for most of his life he was indulging in these tragic stories Edie gave him. But unfortunately, at the end of it, Lewis ends up taking his own life. Another death influenced by Edie's tales. Even Edith herself at one point asks if she should let these stories die with her and not pass them on to her children or to whoever is reading her book, the one you see in the beginning of the game. And that's probably also one of the saddest parts of the game. The book was meant for Edith's child to read when Edith dies, and she does. We can all hope that Edith was the last affected by these stories and the needless deaths ended with her. So the game really just blew me away. I ended up getting my platinum trophy as I did once. I was not expecting to be damn near in tears at the end of the game. What a really great game. If you haven't played it, definitely go do it. It's like 2-3 hours long or something. I definitely think it's worth your time. But yeah, that's basically all I gotta say about the game. Go follow my socials down below, my Instagram, my Twitter. Mirko streams are on the way. We about to stream this shit up. We about to go crazy. So subscribe, like the video if you enjoyed it, leave a comment, let me know what you think, and I will see you all next time. Peace.